My name is Cathy Thompson, and I'm a member of the Kitchener Schwaben Club. I would like to introduce you to a traditional Donau Schwaben dish that my family made every year, going back generations. And what is this family favorite that I love it really a lot? It is called Sulze. Can also be called a bouncy meat jello. Yes. So how does Sulze do what it does? Well, bone broth gels because collagen, a structural protein found in connective tissue on meaty and gristly bones, breaks down with prolonged cooking, dissolving into the cooking medium. When the resulting broth cools, the proteins realign themselves and produce a fine, bouncy meat jello. This is also called aspic, head cheese, and Sulze. In this picture, you can see an example of everything. You probably recognize the one, the top far left. That is traditionally how you find Sulze at the market, in a store, sliced from a large loaf. The middle one is an aspic. It's an aspic because it also has vegetables in it, not just meat. The bottom image, bottom left, shows how it is served in Germany with potatoes. Yeah, slices of this Sulze is served with Bratkartoffel. Upper right, this is very important because I love this. It's called Bresack mit Musik, which means literally meat jello with music. I think the music would be the onions and the vinegar that is poured over the jelly, over the jellied meat, and is then eaten together. Sulze is so popular that there's even a band called Spielmannschaft Sulze. Why Sulze? Well, Donau Schwaben were farmers. In the early days, they had no refrigerators. This is how they preserved meat. It could only be made in the late fall and winter. The anteroom between the house and the barn would be cold enough to allow the Sulze to gel. This is why, in her later years, my grandmother would always ask me if it was possible to make Sulze. She didn't remember that I had a refrigerator. Alrighty then, let's get started. First of all, what are you going to need to make this delicious dish? Well, you're going to need a pot of water, salt, pepper, bay leaves, dishes to serve it in when it's finished. You're going to need a soup ladle, a sharp knife, and a fork. So the first thing we're going to do is put the pot on the stove. And what are we putting into our pot? Yummy. We are putting in pork hocks. That's part of the pig's leg, like the upper thigh. Pigtails. Now you can use only the meat-bearing part of the tail or the part with the skin. I personally like the part with the skin. And our favorites, pig's feet. And let me put these two together. There we go. That is a pig's foot. And they are very difficult to find, pig's feet. Had to do a little searching, but I've got them right here. What we do with these is we put these into the pot as is. There we go. Turn on the stove. Set it to medium and just let it boil and boil and boil and boil some more until the meat falls off the bones. Literally, you can pick up the bones out of the pot without having any meat on them. That's how long it has to boil. Okay, so we will let it boil and take a short coffee break. Here we have the pot. halfway through the process. As you can see, it's a nice rolling boil. A little more than a simmer because this is going to take long. Also, we have to add a little bit of flavoring. Pepper, salt, and some bay leaves. These were the only things that my parents and grandparents put into their Sulze. There we go. And make sure it goes down into the liquid. And we will continue letting it boil until the meat falls off the bones. We're back. I'm currently doing a meat check to see if it's coming off the bones yet. Pretty close, pretty close. As you notice, the water does go down the water level. The meat is supposed to be not quite covered with water, so you can add water to this, okay? You don't want it to boil away completely. So we'll give it a few more minutes and we'll come back again. Hey, it's ready. Okay. Meat is falling right off the bones. So we take this pot and bring it over to the workspace. The next step, there are two ways of doing this. You have to remove as many bones as you can. You can either do it, you can either do it in the pot. So you would pull the meat off and then yeah, well, we used to do it in the pot. Pigtails, you don't have to pull the meat off the bones. You just leave the pigtail bones in there. Actually, toes, yeah, there's not a lot on the toes, so you can leave those in there too. Most of the meat is on the pork hocks. What I also did the last time is I just took the meaty parts, put them on the counter, and cut the meat off here. Alrighty, here we go. Cut the meat off here. Put it back into the pot. There. So let's say we have got all of the meat that we are able off the bones. We're now going to put the Sulze mixture into the serving dishes. We used to put it into a big bowl and everybody would just take a spoonful out of that bowl and pass it on to the next person. Because I am just about the only person that still eats Sulze, I tend to put it into individual servings. So here we go. Individual servings. There's two meaty parts. Now, where are the toes? Here's another part of the foot. It'll be like eating a drumstick. You would eat the meat off the bone. Hello, meat off the bone. There. Okay, so don't want to take up too much of your time, but you add the liquid until it covers up the meat. Yes, there will be skin, there will be fat. I mean, you did not waste any part of the pig. Actually, there was a recipe on the internet and the man used an entire pig's head. Didn't have a pot big enough for that one. So here we go, all ready to go. What do we do with them now? They're not jelly. We put them in the fridge. And as it cools down and as it sits, the soupy part will turn into a jelly. You're probably wondering, how long does this have to stay in the fridge? Well, for an individual serving, a minimum of 2.5 hours. For a big family bowl, between minimum 4 or 5 hours. But me, I leave it in the fridge overnight and enjoy it the next day. I have just taken these out of the fridge, and boy, they look perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, you're wondering, what is this white stuff on the top? Well, it's fat. And fat, in the good old days, had a purpose. First of all, the fat keeps the moisture in so that the jelly, at least the top of it, doesn't dry out. And it's the same idea for the meat. The fat covers the meat, most of it, so that the meat on the top does not dry out and become leathery. Ah, this looks so good. Let me scrape the fat off. And I see the jelly and the meat. There, as you can see, there is the jelly, there is the meat. Just like Oma made. This Sulze was my family's recipe. We liked the base model, so to speak. Just add salt, pepper, and bay leaves. For those more creative, you can add vinegar, spices, and vegetables like sliced carrots, and boil those ingredients along with the Sulze. Onions, anything you want to put in, you can boil it along and it will be in the Sulze. So, thank you so much for joining me, and guten Appetit.